Okay, this is Adrienne with Always Home Yoga. And we are going live, we promise, with a ritual practice today with an expert who's named Matthew. He's a ritual guide. He is to see if I can accept him as participating. I tried to get on his. He's trying to get on me. I don't know why it's saying. But you know what, Matthew? It worked when you had me on before. I just didn't have my right audio system together. I don't know why it's saying. So we're going to do this again. This is part of learning and having people that support us. This is yoga practice, not yoga perfect. So we appreciate the opportunity to learn and grow together. Fun. Okay, super. So I see Matthew sent me a message, and we're going to hop on over to Matthew's. So if you can join us at Matthew Loves Yoga, that's where we'll be. That's where we're heading over to now. And we'll see you there to get our ritual discussion started. See you soon.
Hello again. Okay, let's see if this is take number like 3, 4. The practice, the journey of trying to go live. Let's see. I'm gonna try it like I got that. Okay, so let's see. We're going on with Always Home Yoga, also known as Adrienne, who has a podcast called Yoga Saved Me. And they're doing for the month of December, a takeover, essentially, of tips to manage grieving during the holidays. So definitely helped me look at grief in a different way, different perspective in my own life. So let's see if we can find her. Okay, it says invited. Let's see. Invited. Oh, the practice. And I was saying earlier, Mercury's in retrograde, so that could be a thing. Okay, let's see. Yes, let's go live. Yes, accept it. Go live. Why isn't it accepting it? Go live. Grr. What is happening? I see it. I'm accepting it. I'm accepting and I'm inviting. Oh, God, it reminds me like the first time I did Yoga Nidra and people were just giving me cues. And I was like, these are no words that I want to hear right now. I'm like, I am accepting. It's saying I'm not. Go live with yeah. Let's go live. It yeah. Don't we yeah. There okay. Are we doing it?
We're doing it.
Okay. Yay. I mean, we've done it like clearly we practiced and now like our practice our efforting has succeeded.
It succeeded, and it's a good opportunity to use breathing techniques and um, self-compassion and sense of humor. And I'm just so
I
thrilled
know.
that you hung in there.
I don't think we need to even do anything. I think we can just log off now because we just did all of our ritual practices. That's how easy it is. Like, I hope it caught everything. Just like us breathing, us having to like question us. Not, I mean, in my lived experience currently, I'm not saying I'm dumb. I'm not saying that I was wrong for this. No words of ill have come out of my mouth towards myself or my thoughts. So that
Yay! That's a
that right
victory.
there, that right there is a practice within itself. So like,
It
that's
is. And a
it's for
victory because
beginners.
I had to
It's
do that too, thinking, what, you so can easily say, what's wrong with you? What are you doing? So, but I know it's easier because it was with you. You're always so calm and so lovely and always have a sunny perspective. It's probably a guna that goes with this that you're going to say, you know? So, that's good. Listen, thank you so much for getting up. You know what?
yeah.
We had a fantastic iRest practice today, and I meant to turn the video off and turned everything off, so I didn't get to say hi to you this morning.
No, that was what I was gonna say too, is, I've started my morning with you. For me it was 5 in the morning. And then I was in silence all day and now I'm talking to you. So this is the first time I'm expressing my voice outside, so it's very interesting. Like, I didn't even hear my own voice this morning. So I've only heard my thoughts. This is the first time I'm expressing in any other form. So yeah, I think I'm like, what a great way to share it with you. So this is
Oh,
perfect.
it is perfect. And the reason that you're here to share is I know that you're a ritual guide. That fascinates me. I love your ritual videos that you share on your Instagram. And you agree to do a cleansing or talk about cleansing rituals for us because, my niche is focused on grief. And I know when you grieve, you can get thrown off of your center and let some things slide. So I thought that you'd be very helpful to reinforce the power of rituals and how that can be helpful all during the year. And this particular time of the year is, what is it? Winter solstice is coming and a new moon?
Full moon. Yeah,
Full
full moon
moon.
is happening the day after Christmas if you celebrate. So the 26th. So yes, and then winter solstice if you're in the northern hemisphere, that's when we'll be celebrating the light, the coming to light, the winter time, the hibernation of it all. But of course, if you're in the southern hemisphere, you're doing your summertime, so you're rejoicing in a different manner, and actively looking at the sun in a different way. But yes, we're
That's
all a part of it.
fascinating.
That's the thing. We're all a part of it. But yes,
It's
kudos to you. I
fast.
just want to say kudos to you for beginning to even touch grief as a
Oh,
practice. I think I've only had to deal with grief in the moment, and I've never had to look at it outside and kind of look at what does comfort me, what does bring me the things outside of a person, what does bring me joy,
I
what does bring me this.
know.
So I think it's very interesting to be going through this, learning about this, and just like you said, practicing it, because this is all a practice as it goes on, as it develops. So
Absolutely. And rituals, I know, are something that can ground us,
yeah.
that when things get uncertain, you can count on them. Um, Tell me, now when I say that, why do we bring out rituals around the full moon? I mean, it sounds as ancient as man, doesn't it? Mankind,
No,
womankind.
and that's the funny thing is too, the looking up to the sky and then bringing it back down to earth and seeing what that reflects kind of goes back with farmers. Like, it was all, I mean, that's how we survived back in the day, like as far as having to plant our own food individually and realistically having to look at when times were best to plant seeds, when times were best to, get the crops, harvest the crops. I mean, obviously, I don't farm, so I know that there's so much more in the middle that goes into this, but I've definitely planted seeds and I have definitely watered them. I've nourished them. I've watched them grow metaphorically in my life. So I know that I can be a farmer in my own vortex, in my own circle. So I think that was it. It was a searching for all these external things, but how do they internally play with me? And then looking at how everyone else has, in ancient times looked to this. Yoga kind of was that one thing that also cracked the other things to go into more depth. Because Ayurveda, the sister science to that, and Vedic astrology with yoga. I mean, all of that in that wheelhouse, they were thinking about these centuries ago, and we're still thinking about it now, but with a different eyesight, because we're in space now. We're literally in space. Like we're taking telescopes that have these cameras beyond our cameras right now, showcasing what is out there. And it's crazy because all that's out there are the same things that's in us, all those chemicals, all those elements, all those things that make these beautiful borealis, like that we can
Yeah.
visually see, are in us. Like the same thing, hydrogen, the same thing that makes H2O is in us, also is used as an element in bombs, like hydrogen bombs. So how crazy that this beautiful thing is also in so many other things. So I think
When,
that the connection, basically long-winded answer for ritual was that embodiment, is that connection for me. I realized it with my family. They practiced it in their manner. Born and raised Catholic. We're Mexican, so there's a lot more traditions that accompany that. But and they believed very heavily in like Virgin Mary, all the saints, the patrons, all that stuff. So I've always seen people with a spiritual connection in that manner. So I definitely acknowledge that rituals are so much. They're in every aspect. It's just how you kind of acknowledge it. Back in the day, it was farmers. They had their rituals, and they were technically doing their yoga, I'm sure, when they were planting. And I mean, every time I've gardened, I've done it. So we're all connected.
absolutely.
It's all yoga. That's why my thing is Matthew loves yoga, because I didn't want to specify what I love about yoga, because I love laying in bed doing I Rest Nidra with you this morning. Like that was beautiful. I didn't move a muscle. Like that was my yoga. But then also I've done yoga where it's a vinyasa and it's heavy flow and it's this. So I can't specify,
Yeah.
because yoga's life.
That's the thing. It's not just one thing when people say yoga. It's not just one thing. And that's the beauty of it. It literally is something for everyone, and lots of it can be for lots of people.
Yeah.
I know we took an Ayurveda course together that like blew our minds. She was so good, the teacher. And
Yes.
I have to go back and do it like 5 times over. It makes me want to get a certification in that. Are you going to specialize in that as well?
I want to do the yoga therapy. I'm in the yoga therapy beginning portion, the bridge program, before I go into the main thing. I want to get that done before I start tackling everything else.
Wait a
I know they go
minute.
I know they go hand in hand, and I still actively read the books. I read all the things that they're reading as they're studying as well. As you know, I was like, the gunas. I'm like, what's the
I
gunas? And then it's like, nowhere are you finding that in the 8 limbs. Like you're hearing aspects of the gunas as far as the play, but you find that more in Ayurveda. So that's yes. There's a lot
because
of things. And
listen,
Chinese
I
medicine
knew you.
too. I think there's a lot of traditional Chinese
Oh,
medicine that focuses a lot of that. So I think there's a lot of elements. Even again, back to the farmers, they were also looking at it seasonally. Like, why does what yields my crops better during this time? They were looking externally for all this stuff. Whereas the others are looking internally. They're like, okay, yes, and like we have these crops, and we also need to reflect on ourselves, because are we also, should we be hibernating? We're feeling
yeah.
cold, we're feeling dryness, we're feeling that, like, is this an experience that's only exclusive to the things around us, or is this an experience that's also connecting all of us? And again,
And
that's
also
that.
finding what's going to warm us, like finding out the ginger is warming
Mhm.
or that mint could be cooling. But you said something. I knew you were getting your 300 because you have your 200, so you were going to be 500 certified. I didn't realize you're going to do the yoga therapy. Congratulations. You
Yeah.
said you're in the bridge program. You'll
Yes.
be fantastic at that. Oh my
I had
gosh.
to I had this year has been beautiful. I've been able to live my yoga. There's a lot of things that I've been moving parts that I've been able to stand a little bit more firm and grounded in myself, and in my authenticity as well. And I think that's it. Those things needed to line up in order for me to continue in that manner. Because again, everything is so connected and we're seeing so much. And I just want to learn it all. But I also know what my vibe is. And like I said, rituals are, a connection. It is something that makes it internal. My ritual, like I shared a meditation with you that you'll be posting on your podcast, Yoga Saved Me. I will also be posting that same with a visual. It's a candle gazing, essentially, meditation. That one's a really amazing. I think we all kind of actively do it. This is the beginner aspect, beginner friendly, that we can do for the winter solstice. We can do for the full moon. We can do just to reset ourselves, is light a candle and stare at it. Like it sounds so like obviously there's like few extra steps, where to put the candle, how to place, where to comfortably, how to set it up for success for yourself. But in a nutshell, it's staring at the flame, and that is your thought, is the flame. That is your single pointed thought. And it is really amazing when you get to experience your body without having to do a yoga nidra, without having to do an eye rest, without having to do a yoga practice, but to just stare at a candle. And I think that makes it more accessible for a lot of people. I think a lot of people find joy in those Bed Bath and Beyond candles, the smell, all these like little
IKEA vanilla are my favorite, the IKEA vanilla. But I know what you mean. And I love that you say that. It doesn't have to be, doesn't have to be a 1-minute commitment. That's 30-second commitment even.
Yeah.
You can do it in small bites and do it longer, right?
Yeah.
So rituals don't have to take up a lot of time, for example.
No, so rituals for me was born out of, I had a alcoholic, a little time in my life, and I needed to stop, and I thankfully did, and I am 4 years sober, and it was thank you. It was that connection of, wait, is it the drinking that I like, or is it the this activity? Because when you're told, don't go to a bar, don't do this, like this will be a trigger. And I'm like, but I like dancing, but I like this. And I would go to these places, I'm like, oh, it's like, yes, it was the alcohol, but at the end of the day, it was the ritual of it. Like it was, like I would do this, I would set this up. So it started to, and then yoga kind of blew my mind with, this is where I say how you say yoga saved me. I also agree, where I'm like, yes, that is my sentiment as well. Because it was that introduction to the yamas and niyamas, the 8 limb path, right off the bat, yamas and niyamas, like ahimsa, nonviolence. Right off the bat, I was like, ooh, when we look at it, are we like, how are we really looking at this towards ourselves? That's when things started to change. And I needed to add, not take away. That's my philosophy. I'm like, let's add good. Like, it's fun taking away, yes, but like, does your body react to things being taken away? Of course it does. Like, I don't physically like things being taken away. However, if you give me 4 things, I'm okay if one thing just so happens to go away. Like, it's fine. Like, it was probably meant to be. So with that said, it was looking at, okay, Matthew, you wake up 2 hours early. What do you like to do? And it's like, oh, I really like to just sit in bed and lay in there. And then I found yin yoga. And then it was you. And then it was like, I don't have to be on camera. I can be in bed doing this. Like when you gave me that allowance, you turned off the camera, you put on I forgot what it was, a slideshow. That was that permission. Like, again, this is where I think we all kind of help each other with my ritual started off one way. And then having non-attachment.
I love how you always have candles. Candles are important to you. They're important. I know in Scandinavia.
I love candlelight. I look so good in candlelight. I think everyone looks good in candlelight. Just period. Like, let's bring back to the 16th century candlelight in every place. Like, I love a good, like, dimly lit bar with candlelights. Like, It's so
Yeah.
good. And usually, and the other thing too, it's usually direct lighting. It's never like you can't ever put candles too low or too high. Like, yes, you can put them on the ground, but visually they tend to put them higher. I feel again, it really does help me just be a little bit more present. It anytime I
Yeah.
see a fire, I'm conscious of in the present moment because I wouldn't want
Yeah.
that place to burn down.
Exactly. You are acutely aware when there's a live flame going on, but at the same time, you can get acutely drawn into your inner, your inside, drawn inside with
Yeah.
with the candle. Like, what's that? There's a term for that when you're looking at the candle. That's is it? It's in part of our practice. One of the eight limbs. Like I know I try to practice a lot
Oh,
of
well,
my
it's the
with my
English
eyes
verb
closed.
was candle gazing, but I think the Sanskrit is chataka.
I'm so bad with the Sanskrit, but I
I
know that's
know.
part of in one of the eight limbs as far as not necessarily candle
Oh,
gazing,
sense
but
withdrawal. Oh, yeah.
you see what I mean?
Yeah, sense withdrawal.
Yay!
Sorry, yes, sense
Exactly.
withdrawal.
Yeah.
Sorry, yes. I'm like,
No, I know
oh,
you
I'm like,
know.
let me just. This is the book, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. This is what we were referring to. This is that staple book in our 200-hour YTT yoga teacher training. This is why. This is ultimately my my rubric essentially for how I foundation my rituals. And it was funny because it was stemmed from the fact that we were taught that a well-rounded yoga practice eventually does have the eight limbs all there. Like you may not be doing it all in that one sitting, that may not be what it is, but essentially like it is a well balanced. And it's surprising once you start with the first yama, the ahimsa, how easy the rest of them come. Like it may be hard in like the English language, the putting it to words, but the experience of it all, that's where it is. And I think again, this is where the winter solstice, the experience, we get to experience it. We're seeing the seasons change. So we're seeing it outside. So now we can look internally and be like, what are things that are changing within us? It coincidentally happens close to the new year. So we're already in that mindset of new me, who's this, like all this vibe. If you subscribe to that, if not, again, I'm into adding, not really taking away. So I look at it like, did this work in this manner? Like, okay, like Matthew, like we have free range to learn at our own pace, at our own time. No structure does not do me well. So this year I'm going to have a little more structure. I'm going to add structure. I'm not taking away fun to say, okay, Matthew, you can't do this. Like you have to do this. No, we're adding some structure. I'm still definitely going to play. Like that balance
Yeah.
is still going to be there. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Which is
but
so important.
yep. And that's the other thing too, is these are beautiful themes. The full moon, the new moon, these are all giving us almost journal prompts for our life, just to kind of take that step back. These things happen in 28 to 30-day time spans, so it's really easy to get into this 30-day habit of, looking up in the sky or checking on the phone, being like, oh, is this a new moon? Is this, where are we in our moon transit? Um, it's also really fun too because this is like the space nerd in me where I'm like the tides get higher during the full moon. People are linked to having a little bit more like insomnia. um Crime is lower during the full moon, surprisingly enough, but it's mainly because the bright like or what is it, yeah, the full moon, it's the bright light. Like there's no darkness, so it like literally
Yeah.
can't hide anywhere.
Yeah.
The new moon is when there's more crimes, and that's mainly because it was dark. And I remember this statistic, like a random statistic. I will pull it up because it was really interesting, because I'm just like, there's a lot of things that just naturally tend to happen, and just if you notice the cycles in yoga, we learn it as noticing the mental modifications, or like that same samskara, that pattern.
Mm.
So that's
Mm.
all these little things when you take a step back and you're like, oh, I have
Well, and I know
patterns.
the moon cycle is tied with femininity, and the menstrual cycle is 28 to 30 days.
Yeah.
generally,
I have
and
several I have several I have several beings in my life who are synced to the moon cycle like no other. And it's so funny because I, as someone who doesn't experience them, of course I'm their cheerleader for their body. I'm like, it does it. It's doing this naturally. It's supposed to be. How great. Like, you're getting allowance to lay down, to sit, to rest, to do this.
well,
But
I met a
you have to
wise
do that
woman.
stuff.
'Cause, yeah, I used to have very uncomfortable periods, but I met a wise woman. She said, "No, this is a time to celebrate and cleanse. Drink cranberry juice, soak in hot tub." She said, this is a wonderful time. She had the perfect point of view. Um, if you ask me,
You release
this
a
is a
lot
time
of
to
toxins.
celebrate.
You release a
Yeah,
lot of toxins through the blood straight. Like that's a very interesting thing that I feel like women have this secret power where they're just constantly cleansing naturally. It's one of those things where I'm just like, and especially like I have family members that often had to give blood draws, and that was the main thing. I was like, I hate it. I hate giving my blood. I hate doing this, and I always had to look at it like you're getting rid of toxins. You're starting over. Like your body is getting to regenerate, rejuvenate. Like you're
yeah,
being fresh. It's cleansed. Like I had to look. I feel like that was my comfort. Much like you said, when grief hit you, you turned to yoga. When grief hit me, I turned to rituals and seeing how there's so much connection and how it isn't. I always hated when people would be like, oh, it's a blessing. It's like, is it? Or is this just this because of this? And here's how we can make it, not make it all make sense, but make it work for us. And I think we're constantly
yeah.
searching for that balance and that harmony. And that's where the rituals come in.
And
I do.
that's interesting because when you say that, when we practice a ritualistic life, and including, like you say, candle gazing or meditation or breathing, that we have those tools that we can't change circumstances, but definitely change how we react to the circumstances. And that's what people consider a blessing sometimes. Don't you
Mhm.
think?
Oh, definitely. And that's where, so the meditation that I recorded that I gave to you, that I'll also be putting on my page or my Instagram as well. Um, I like to look at not the story, and I know you're a big component of that too. Less of the story, less of the naming, more the experience. That's really where that's really where it comes down to. Where do we have these experiences in our five senses? That's really where we get into it. I think that's more or less where my rituals are always based out of. I think that's why I said like the candle gazing is so big for me because it's like visually that's a sense. I'm like, ooh, here's this auditory. Sometimes I hear that crackle. Um,
Mm.
that's my
So, yeah. Oh, I
that's
love
my way of
that.
basing.
Well, I love that auditory, but you can also feel the warmth from a candle
Hmm.
as well. And
Yeah,
especially if you're in a room full of candles. But so for a winter solstice ritual, you would use candles. What do people, because people think like this isn't about gathering a whole bunch of stuff or that you need to invest in a whole lot of things. Like what do you need other
it's
than
so
yourself?
it's really that time to be mindful for this present moment, for this present experience, to open yourself up for allowing. It's that judgmental free zone. Um, it's I would say for me, it is that moment where I get to put a pause on things and get to play it out without having to get into the story. Um, some of my
Mm-hmm.
rituals are fire related. During certain seasons for me, I write things down during the end of the year actually. So maybe I will do it for this winter solstice. I'll write down a few of my goals and just burn it, and mainly it's just so I'm not attached to it. I will remember these goals, I will have these things, but I'm not so heavily set on how it should look. Because prior it was a list of I'm going to do this. Here's how I get to this. But now,
Mm-hmm.
and that always left a little headache. That always left a little, concern and this and worry. It invited too much, and now
Mm-hmm.
I kind of hone it in, but in the end, non-attachment, let that be added to the flame. It's not. It needs to go. It needs to be gone. I think that's for me. It's always been that visual, and then I get like, oh, okay, like that also it helps get rid of other things in my life as well. Surprisingly
That's
enough.
a good thing. I have a gold box and a black box. And a gold box I put down, um, well, I should say I start with the black box. I put down things that I'm worried about, and I'll go back and check months later and realize, oh, I forgot about this, so this is resolved, and I move it over to the gold box. Or if I start with the gold box, I write down things that, not more like a gratitude box, but maybe a goal that was reached or a surprise, because I have a daily gratitude journal. But I
Yeah.
like the idea of at the end of the year, maybe writing down, for me, like, because I know how I can operate, writing down all the things that maybe didn't go the way I would like them to go or cause me stress or something like that. Like, burn those because you don't want to carry those over into the new year. I can see doing
Yeah.
that for me. But then also, like you say, goals, hopes, and dreams for the new year, and burning those so you're not obsessed with those as well. I love the idea. I think I'm
And then
going to do that.
I always go into like just that fun knowledge of like the alchemy behind that as well, because you're turning this creation of pen to paper, this thought, this love, this intention, but then you're also adding it to the fire. You're giving it to that element, and that element is now producing something with it. And then now it's going into the ether, it's going into the space, into the air. It's now something else. I That to me is that like, okay, like I can stop obsessing about this because there's so much more going on. And I'm just this little thing, this little speck in this beautiful play, this beautiful harmony. Because, like I said, I'm like everything that you're teaching us as far as these practices, just allowing grief to be and not be hidden, be shamed, be anything else other than be, is a ritual in itself. That, because then you're
Yeah.
asking, like, well, how do I do that? And you're like, well, easy. You're like, ask yourself. And that's usually what I do when I try to find people's rituals. I ask them a few questions. I don't add anything or take away from them that they wouldn't already be doing. If they already have a habit of walking or kind of going outside at a certain time, I invite them to like open up with their senses, use their eyes, like look up, look down, look to the side. Great eyeball exercises as well. Like we're not, there's
Hmm.
so many times we're sitting in yoga that, we're told, look up, that's the one time we're doing exercises, but it's something we could be doing just looking at nature around us. It doesn't have to be a sit down practice. um, it's again that acknowledgement of what you're doing, how you're doing it, and why you're doing it, and that enjoyment. You have to find your enjoyment in that manner,
And
because like
building
you,
on from that and not acknowledging that it's not like you're doing something wrong just because you may be struggling with something or want to enhance something. So I love how you say that. Well, what are you doing that you enjoy? Definitely don't cut that out. Add on to it, enhance it. I love that idea because walking we know is a form of meditation, and you can get in the habit of not even noticing something that if you hadn't have said, "Well, listen for the sounds," you may not have noticed. Oh my God, I can hear 5 different kinds of birds
yep,
or
yep.
something.
Yep, or smells, like little smells where you're like, oh, someone's cooking bacon. Like, or you're like, oh, someone's doing this. Like, wow, someone, I always love where I'm like, how did that person pass emissions? Like as I smell a car go by and I'm like, geez, like that is a lot of gas. Like what is happening? So like little things. The other thing that I love about that as well is we add an element of water because we normally will take water with us when we go for this walk. That's a beautiful time to slowly, I'm a big proponent of this, slowly, as you're drinking the water, say your affirmations, say words of praise, say, anything that makes you feel whole and complete and nourished, because that is what that is doing. Your water is making you feel whole and complete and nourished. Without water, we're dehydrated. We can't do things. Like literally, our brain starts shutting down. Our body, like everything, we can't taste. There's so many senses, things that go away with just taking away water. So again, that's where that. And the best thing too is water. You're also eliminating it. So you're noticing when you're like, oh, I drink a lot of water, you're releasing a lot of those toxins. I'm sure that was at some point that was some negative thought. Like, think of it like that. So you're like, oh, this is a thought that, this is taking out this. I think we don't give ourselves credit because we're not in front of or in a gym or in this, like, actively seeing the things that we're doing, these rituals to make us feel whole and complete. That
I
we need
love
to take we need to take these moments and realize we're doing it. We're doing it every moment. We are. I swear, we are.
I love that. I have to figure out how to work that into a meditation. So breathe in positive energy and exhale like toxins flushing through your morning urine.
Yeah, right? Exactly. And there's someone who's gonna vibe with that, be like, huh, like, okay. And I'm sure there's some people, and at the end of the day too, because that's the other thing. Like, I remember those nights where I'm like waking up and like I have to go to the bathroom. I'm like, oh, I drink so much water. Like, that's why I drink up and wake up in the middle of the night. I'm not mad at myself for having to go to the bathroom. I'm super proud of myself because I'm releasing toxins. Like, all these things that used to annoy me about my own body are now like, oh my God, thank you for doing what you're supposed to be doing. I make fun of,
Because
I
if that
sweat,
wasn't functioning, yeah, if that wasn't
right?
functioning,
Yeah, even
that would be
sweating, like
off.
sweating is naturally like rather than saying like, oh, I'm sweating, you can be like, oh my gosh, like I wonder what that was. Like I wonder was that, this like that past, holding on to this. We talk about somatic healing all the time of moving our muscles really does help get some of these toxins, which also may be trauma related in our body out and released. So it's essentially that same thing. We're doing it. Our body's constantly doing it. Acknowledge what we're doing when we're doing it.
Well,
It's
what did we learn in the basics? Dis-ease, dis-ease, what that means when we're not at ease with our bodies, when our minds aren't synced, and how that shows up as a disease or, and these other indicators.
yeah.
So all of that is together. So to have a ritual, you need consistency. Let me ask you this: consistency. So consistency around the moon cycles, that's easy. But
Yeah.
daily, can somebody really have a daily ritual?
Well, this is where I'm like, time is an illusion. It's not real. Like consistency can look like every month, like once every month. Like it doesn't, if it's beautiful if your connection is. Maybe your connection is teaching, if you have children, teaching little ones like your rituals in the morning. Like maybe you're not participating in it, but maybe they are. Maybe the TV's off when they're eating. Maybe it's a home that prays over their food. They're teaching like love and intention on that food. That's a ritual that you may not be actively participating in, but you're trying to teach someone else. So I think it's these little moments that we do. I think that's the thing. Like we do so much. We're doing it.
We we do so much, and I love that. Like you say, you may not actively be doing it, but you're becoming a ritual guide when you share those rituals and traditions on with your children or loved ones. I
And
think
that's the
that's
thing.
beautiful.
That's why I highlight the children, because that's the illusion of time. Like that right there is the illusion. Because you think you're doing it in this present moment, but honey, believe you, that child is going to remember it for the rest of their life. So now that's going to continue on. So maybe yes, your commitment isn't daily rituals, but don't beat yourself up, because if you've done a ritual every few times and now your child sees it, or your partner sees it, or someone sees that maybe you have done ritual, again, these are all little things that they can be like, oh no, you are. Like you are. When you wake up in the morning, you pour your coffee, you go outside, and you're not yelling at anything. You're just out there. Like that was actually your ritual. But they're like, oh no, I was just drinking my coffee. Some people are so like, no, I was drinking my coffee. I wasn't thinking about anything. I was in the moment. I was enjoying it. Like, yeah, that is one of the limbs of yoga. Yes, like you're
You
there.
nailed
You're not
it.
there. You're not there
Exactly.
sense withdrawal, but you are definitely there on some of the other limbs.
Yeah, you nailed it. And I know that, and I printed it out. I need to look at it more. I shouldn't say need. I plan to look at it more. I want to look at it more. I feel better when I look at it more. But
Yeah.
all of the eight limbs, and then I don't want to say I translated it, but I made it make sense for me, like what I can incorporate every day in my life per limb. Like I won't say yes. I won't do anything that I can't do with full happiness and um, I was gonna say gladiator. That's a Swedish word, but yeah, I won't say yes to do anything that I can't do with full love in my heart. For example, and oh, what was everything all my interactions will be loving and kind and peaceful. Now, don't get me wrong. These are aims. I haven't reached that level where all of
Well,
my
this is where I'm like, again, pick up that book. I'm like, oh, Upside Down. I'm like, you can read Upside Down too, I'm sure. Um, I'm like, that'll be a yoga practice in its own. But no, this again, I go back to this all the time as that base, and just like you said, translating it back to modern times. A lot of that stuff is Pratipakshibhavana, where your goal, you're aiming, like, yes, I aim to always have positive thoughts, but I really like it sometimes when my other thoughts come out and I'm like, ooh, that is very different than that nice happy thought. But it's really nice that, like, okay, I see you. Like, I see you. We're not listening, we're not engaging, but I do see you. It gives you a baseline. That's the other thing too. Just noting, I think that's that grief aspect too. Your baseline is off when you're grieving. That was my active thing where I had to look at alcohol in that way, where I was like, oh, I was grieving with alcohol, like, dang. And that's again where it led to, like, oh, that wasn't drinking, it was a ritual of getting ready, doing this, like, oh, okay. But it went back to, what was I doing walking hand in hand with grief? It wasn't anything uplifting. I wasn't holding it. I wasn't trying to say, how can we be? And that's that.
you weren't sitting with it. Yeah, you weren't sitting with it. You weren't
And that's what these
listening
rituals do. That's
to
what the moon,
it.
the my moon practices, from the new moon to the full moon, again, just like I was saying with the planting and the harvesting. You plant the seeds in the new moon. They're metaphorical seeds. That's a good time to cleanse, put your crystals out, do all these fun things. Really get into it. The new moon is the darkest, so it's also that time where, like, shadow self you can look at a little bit more authentically, just because you're not out in a spotlight having to look at yourself. You're just in the darkness. That's what that's kind of correlates. It's beautiful too with this full moon as well, like this practice, because the full moon is a time to reap the benefits, the rewards, the abundance from the seeds that you planted from the new moon. So we're coming up on the winter solstice in 3 days. That's about going internal. We have, like I said, Mercury in retrograde right now, so that's a time of pause, because communication's a little wonky. It's that time to just reflect, go a little solace. Um, but the winter is a good time to just, like you said, be comfy, be cozy,
Be
whatever that
comfy,
looks
be
like.
cozy. Yeah.
In that
For me,
candlelight.
I'd say candlelight, plush blankets, you know, uh, soft, what is it? What is the word? Even I can't think of the name of the material. Cashmere, if you can afford it, I guess, but sweaters and leggings and socks,
Yeah, just so
just
soft.
warm
And that's all an
drinks.
experience. I think that's where that connection all lies, is it's all an experience.
Well, for me,
How
I
are you
like the
how are you experiencing?
tactical feel. Yeah.
Yeah. How are you
Where
experiencing it? How are you
how does it
experiencing
feel on
this
your
moment?
skin?
And that's
In the
that
warm
that'll
drink. How does
that's
it
that
feel on your
ritual.
Yeah, how does it feel on your body, warming going in, on your tongue, the smell, the texture of that. The candle, you know, I love the vanilla candles, that's that scent, plus the visual. There's so many things that would you say that we underutilize our sources, or are we overstimulated? Not our sources, senses. It seems like we underutilize our senses at the same time where we're overstimulated.
Right there with that, I think it's that attention span too. There's always the next, the next, the next, the next, the next, the next. That's I mean, that's our battle, right? That's that internal dialogue that we're constantly having to go with, of not being in the present. Because when you're in the present, you want nothing more or less. You're just there. You're like, you're in it. You're content. And I think that's where we're all kind of like, content doesn't have a good like ring to it. It doesn't seem like this happy, beautiful place. But content is sattva. Content is balance. Content is that center. There's been so many
Well, that
times where,
PR.
yeah, there's been so many times where I go home and I'm like, wow, I really didn't talk. I didn't feel like this. Da-da. And then a couple days later, they're like, oh my gosh, Matthew, you are so this, like, da da da. And it's so funny. I was like, huh. I'm like, I was calm. I was like, I didn't feel like I was actively participating in this. But I guess because I was so present, I wasn't on my phone taking pictures. I wasn't trying to like network. I wasn't trying to like say, oh, I do this or oh, I do that. It was just in the moment being. I was like, oh, like here I thought I wasn't actively participating, but in retrospect, I was. So that
Sound
I
like
think
you were
that's
the
where,
true self, closer to
yeah,
true self.
yeah, and I think that's where the senses kind of lie too. It's not that we maybe overutilize them or we're overstimulated or this. I think it really is just like we're not in this place to just be and experience it and not have those words to it. Like too much, too little. It's just it is. It is what it is.
Mm. Wow, you said so many things that blow my mind away. You're such a deep thinker.
I try,
But you put a
it's
lot of
honestly,
things.
it's all the connection. It's like, how can you not be when it's all connected? Like you think you're in the shallow pool and then you like get off and you're like, oh, it's still more. There's still more. Like, okay. So
Yeah,
I thank you because it was your looking at grief in a different manner for me, listening to the tips, listening to all these. I was like, you're saying rituals. You're talking a lot about self-care. You're talking a lot about prioritizing your needs. You're talking a lot about focusing on not these external validations, but while still having support. I think that was the illuminating for me, where I looked at it now differently, where I'm like, I've never had grief with support. I've always had grief as I can do this myself. I can do this my own. It's an individual experience. I can individually do this. That's that. And now with yoga, I'm like, yes, that's an individual experience. But with yoga, you can do this in community, and community helps you, and you learn better in community. So it's like, okay, well, sometimes grief is okay in community. It's that
that's
allowed.
right.
Yeah.
That's why there's no one size fits all. And that's one thing that helped me, the yoga, well, saved my life, literally. You know, you don't want to over exaggerate, but that's how I feel. Can I just ask you one last question?
Yeah.
And you said something interesting that you can do it in community, but rituals to me are also a beautiful thing that you can do completely in private. Is there
Yeah.
something, yeah, what's so special about that? Because we do a lot of rituals in public, like you say,
Most
you
of mine
know,
are private. Everything, it's funny, the ones that I do choose to share are my private ones. I wouldn't make someone else get, pink Himalayan salts and, do these like white candles and set it up a certain way and put it like, I wouldn't like that. Feels good and authentic and true to me. There's symbolisms in my life that feel good to me. There's an altar in my home that I had. It's funny enough because, again, being raised Catholic, we've always had an altar. There's always been a place of worship. So it's one of these where I'm like, my place of worship turned to a place of spirituality. It's also near my yoga mat. So it's one of these things where it all kind of changed, just shifted. Um, Thank you for highlighting how easy rituals are just in general. I think just talking and going back and forth with this helps everyone kind of realize that it's not a lot of things that you have to add to your life. It's something you already have. That bottle of water, like I said, just put it as you're filling up your bottle of water, you know, be thankful, have gratitude towards this water. I honestly do think about the times that people had to go and fetch water. I have it coming out of my tap. I am so grateful. I would definitely, Pratipakshibhavana, would notice a difference if I had to go and fetch water and do all this. So I do take that time to be mindful. I take that time to be mindful as I drink it. I say that affirmation. I praise my body when I eliminate it and thankful for the toxins that it's releasing. So thank you for
Totally
eliminating.
answered a question I was going to ask you, like the last question. How do you even start? And it
That's it.
seems
Yeah.
like you start with awareness and gratitude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How would you
Like I
say?
said, you showed it. You showed it. You were highlighting it. You've been highlighting it with these tips. With go check out. I'll shamelessly plug you and your podcast. Yoga Saved Me. It's on all platforms. Go through all the tips. I think they're around like 3 minutes a piece or so. It's great. All the tips are your starting point to realize how easy rituals are, because it is just like you said. It's being mindful. It's being present. It's being able to feel. The meditation that I putting out on my Instagram and also that you're putting out on your podcast touches on that. I don't talk about the name of feeling. I talk about be the experience. Be with the experience. Be the observer. We're living in our five senses. Enjoy them. These five senses, like, enjoy them. Figure it out. Enjoy it. we have
Yeah,
it. We
because
have our built-in rituals, and thank you for showcasing it. Thank you.
thank you for being a ritual guide. I'm sorry, I was looking, my lips are so dry, and it makes me think that my pitta vata is off or something. But that's ritualistic to me.
Yeah.
To
And do we notice, are we more dry in the winter time? Are we more dry? So then there's things like patterns where you can be like, oh, during the winter time, like I tend to do this more and we focus on this. And that's, yes, right there. That's why they're all themes. I am not an astrologer. There are beautiful astrologers out there who can map the stars and tell you a lot of things. Vedic astrology, again, is one of those. I am someone who is living this human experience, and I am seeing and witnessing people that are living a very connected life, very unconnected. Like they're doing all these things, but they're still unconnected. And the rituals will add that little layer, just be connected, be a little more
yeah,
connected.
because I want to say, and I don't know if I knew this before, but humans are ritualistic beings. So this is something that comes natural to us.
Yeah.
And so maybe if you feel like you're missing, you don't have a ritual that really speaks to you, or you're missing it, or you want to up your game, definitely check out Matthew Loves Yoga. He shares rituals on that. Embrace them. Don't feel like you're weird. It's the type of thing, we know that most of them can be private. It's the type of thing that there's no weird ritual as long as you're not harming yourself. So I am thrilled
Ahimsa,
that we got.
ahimsa, ahimsa. You'll know, ahimsa. If that's our first yama.
Yes. So I'm thrilled that our
Thank you.
first conversation about this was with Matthew. And thanks for hosting my Instagram Live. Thank you for hosting your Instagram Live, Matthew. You're the
Thank
best.
you.
You're the best. Happy holidays, if that's
Yes, you
part of
too.
your canon of things for the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll see
Celebrating
you in.
celebrating life is my thing right now. So we will
And
be
you
celebrating life.
so well. That's another reason to follow your Instagram. You do it so well. You're so
Thank
inspiring.
you.
And
Thank
everything you do
you.
is lovely. Yeah, and you just make
Thank
me feel
you.
so good. So thank you for letting me be your friend.
Oh, you're so sweet. Well, you take care. Check out your podcast, Adrian's podcast, Yoga Saved Me. Bye.